I have started the recording. So welcome everyone. This is our June deep dive. It is June 25th, just after 3 p.m. Eastern time. And welcome those of you who are on the East Coast, but we also will have people on the West Coast and Alaska. We get people from all over the place. Welcome all of you. Thank you for spending an hour and a half with us. So this is going to be a little bit different than some of our other deep dives, but we're still going to have a really good workshop here. So the way this works is that as we start, we'll have one person start with this, and we will mute everybody else. Right now, we don't have any exterior noise in the back, but we'll mute you anyway. If you have questions, put them in the chat window. All right. And the chat window is, if you look at your toolbar up across the top, there's an icon for people. It shows you how many people are in here right now, and next to that is a little bubble. That's the chat window. Click on that, and you can, down on the bottom, you can tell it just put your question there to everyone. Chris, who's next to me here.
How's everybody doing?
He will be monitoring that, and as questions pop up, if he can't answer them, he will be interrupting Ned, our presenter, this time. And it is one of those things where I know Ned's got a whole lot of content to present this time, and we're going to let him go. But please, let's ask questions when they come up. You don't have to store them or wait for them. This whole session is being recorded, so you can go through it later. So with that, let me go and introduce Ned. Ned, I consider a good friend. I've known him for longer than he and I will acknowledge. And Ned works for Tallahassee Leon County GIS up in Tallahassee. And Ned, what is your actual job title? Your job description?
GIS Integration Manager.
Okay. So Ned and I have talked about some of the new technology that Esri is putting together, and we get excited about some of this, everything from arcade to attribute rules to story maps and such. And I happen to have attended a couple of years ago, it seems like a lifetime ago, when there actually were in-person conferences. I happened to attend a conference, and Ned was giving a workshop on story maps. And I still recall that is the best workshop I have ever sat in. It was amazing what he did. And I'm not setting the bar up too high, am I, Ned?
A little bit, maybe.
So anyway, I'm going to let Ned go ahead. And again, any questions you have, just put them in the chat window, and we'll go from there. We are going to go and mute everybody except for Ned and myself, because I like to be able to go and interrupt Ned. All right.
Perfect.
Ned, take it off. Go ahead.
So like Frank said, my name is Ned Cake. I'm with Tallahassee Leon County GIS. I've worked for Leon County as a planner and addressing coordinator and in the GIS section for almost 25 years. About 14 of that has been in the GIS field, all the way back to ArcInfo and ArcView 3X. 2.1b actually, I think was my first version. So I'll give you an idea how long I've been doing this. I do not consider myself a coder or developer, but I do some development and coding. So hope doesn't confuse you too much. My goal with this presentation is to give you ideas, introduce you to the new format of story maps, show you some of the old story maps that are going to be around until I think 2024. And I have lots and lots of stuff to show because TLGIS, our staff of professionals, puts together some really nice story maps. And I want you to know up front that this is every bit of this comes from the TLGIS team and from our interlocal team members throughout the city and of Tallahassee and Leon County. So anything that you see is not just my work, it's the work of multiple teams. Sometimes it's just me taking all of their wonderful content and putting it together. Anyway, continuing on. So first thing I thought I would do is talk to you a little bit about the old style story maps and the ones that I use a lot. I'm going to start off here with one. I think this particular story map has had close to 30,000 hits. This is a single theme story map that talks about the Appalachia Regional Park Trail. If you're not familiar with Tallahassee, this is our premier cross-country trail. It was going to be used for the NCAA championships this year, but coronavirus kind of killed that, I think. I don't think they're moving forward with that. But what this does is it's a journal-style story map with some nice customization built in to take you to specific sections of the story map. Or you can just kind of stroll through it like this. And as you go, it'll begin to show you things. And you can see here that the blue on the side here means that this particular section is hidden. It's because they did away with the 1 kilometer race. They started 2 kilometers. But the goal here is to show these as you go through. And so if we go back up to the top, you can see here we've got an embedded video. It's nice to be able to put that type of multimedia content in. So it starts off with that. And then you can click through and go to the 4 kilometer course. And what you see here is we've built in some button with map actions. And so what you see here is it says loop 1 is highlighted. Use these buttons to toggle between loops 1 and 2. So there we are at loop 2, loop 1, and of course a link to a PDF of a printable course map. And because this race track is so popular, this particular map gets a lot of, our story map gets a lot of activity anytime there's a race about to happen. So I like to call this one the Fruit Loop effect because of all the different colors they asked for. And of course, the printable course map. That's really all this thing does. It's a single subject story map. And we end up doing quite a few of those. And now, because this is going to be a lot about the new one, the new story map style, this is what replaces it as of last week. This is the new format of story map, and it's supposed to be the all-in-one that combines all the different types of story maps that you can create now into a single formatted type. So this is the new course map. And what you'll see now, before where I had the little table of contents where you could click through, now this stays at the top all the time. And I can go from any one section to another section. So we start off with the same video and virtually the same text. And now we have a button for the printable sitemap. And what you'll see here is that any place that there is a header, and by that I mean this is a header, that means that you can go directly to it. And once again, when we get down here to 10, you know, some of the limitations these days are that I can't do the lovely colors that I did. I still have the Fruit Loop effect on the map, but I don't have the buttons in color. Which, you know, to me isn't that big of a loss. Especially considering that, you know, the original of that took a lot of coding to create, and actually a lot of writing HTML to create it. So there's no code whatsoever in this, none. And let's see. Next
So
up,
on this one here, this is now fully released, right? This is no longer beta.
yes,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Yeah.
This,
So
now, there are some pieces of this story map style that are beta, but I'm already using them.
okay.
And I'll show you that in a few minutes.
Okay.
They typically come out of beta pretty quickly, and I'll show you one of them now. Did you have another question?
Nope. Sorry.
So one of our best kept secrets at Tallahassee Leon County GIS is our amazing team that processes historical aerial photography. And they've downloaded this, all of these diapositives from the UF, aerial photography group. I forget what they're called right offhand, but Jacob Coble, I don't know if he's on this call, he might be. He takes this imagery, and I don't know if you can see it there, but all of these photos are almost perfectly, hi Jacob, all of these photos are almost perfectly edge matched. So it creates really a seamless view of Tallahassee Leon County from 1954. And so this is one of the old style swipe story maps.
Jason
Really
Cox
nice.
did a lot of work on this too. I got to give him a lot of credit. So, but yeah,
Thanks,
we've done great. Now I'll shut up. See ya.
Thank you, Jacob. Like I said, it's a team approach at Tallahassee Leon County. But you know, you can go out here and see that what used to be farmland is now developed as subdivisions, and these swipe apps are really nice at that. So when I say that, I'm telling you basically that we have 8 so our historical imagery data sets, I think that there are around 8 or 9 of them now. And to do it with this application, you have to build a separate one for each. But in the new story map format, and this is in beta, we have a new then and now application that puts it all together in a photography collection with all swipe apps. And once again, we have the headers at the top here so that we can do a selection and it just stays at the top. So we go to 1937. It's just as easy to navigate, so I can pan around. Let me move this tool out of the way here. I can zoom in and out. The only thing that is really lacking on this is an address search. Because the first thing people want to do when they find this application is see what their property or their house used to be back in the 30s. So in this one, we go and we display all of our sets of imagery that, or aerial photography that Jason and Jacob Cox have put together and geo-referenced. And it's a one-stop shop now. Now this app, because this widget is still in beta, we haven't really released this application yet. But you can see that you know, it's pretty promising. You know, for a county to have this amount of historical aerial photography is pretty exceptional, and it's actually used a lot by our stormwater groups, by our planners. You know, the guy that comes up and said that was never a pond, my grandfather dug it in 1960, and then you go back and show it to him in a 1937 aerial map set, kind of ends the argument. So you see that pond there.
I tell you, one of the things that I'm noticing is you're right, Jacob and his group, that's amazing. For somebody who's actually tried to go into georeference and try to go and rectify some of these old images, Jacob, you did an amazing job on this. That's scary how good that is.
Oh, thank you, and I'll not interrupt. But yeah, it's I mean, it's labor intensive to do good georeferencing, and then taking advantage of the seam lines and the mosaic data set is a big thing. And there are other things too, but I'll stop now. But yeah, it's really neat. What we've been able to do. Thank you.
very earliest of Doak Campbell Stadium. That may soon be renamed. So let's see. And there are some, so this is kind of interesting to look at if you're familiar with Tallahassee at all. I zoomed in on this one to the Gain Street area that's just recently gone through some pretty exceptional changes. They tore down a bunch of old warehouses and completely redeveloped the area as student housing and shops on the bottom, nice multi-use development. Just between now and 2007, that all took place. So both sides, from here to here, this is completely redeveloped.
Wow.
Anyway, so this is the kind of things, so this is all to kind of give you ideas for what you could do with these story maps. This is a 1926 cartographer's rendering of Tallahassee that is actually reverse order, south side up, south is up and north is down. But we also have it as, we got it from Library of Congress. It's royalty free. And we put a large format version out there that you could download. It's printable, it's plotter printable. So when this application does go live, as soon as they fix a few little things with the swipe, this will be a nice addition to TLGIS's story maps. Do you have any questions about this one, Frank?
Nope.
Okay, so continuing on. I've got another one here that is Leon County sustainability. So a few years back, maybe 4 years ago, they sought us out and had us build an application. We built this journal story map. And just ignore these fix in your story. I've got a few things I need to repair in this, but this is actually not the live version anymore. So in the initial version, once again, you see a table of contents here. It takes you all to all the different sections. But what I want to let you know is that a story map, and this is my opinion, done properly, all of these sections right here, down to electrical vehicle charging, should come from one map because they're all the same concept. And so one web map, and that's one thing I probably didn't underscore enough, is the most important thing about your story map is the web map behind it and the pop-ups that are behind it and the other information that's behind it. So looking at these, this is an actual near me application so that you can, using Web App Builder, you can go in and see what the closest farms are. See what, if I click another location, you can see that it has 25 community gardens, 9 farmers markets. You can see all of the green opportunities nearby. And that's just a nice near me widget from Web App Builder. Many of you probably already seen that. But it really gives a nice way to find out what's close by and then even get directions. So we've got some arcade expressions that are giving you Google Waze and iPhone connections, or we've got the straight up get directions from.
So I do have a question since no one else has asked that yet. So, so within a story map, you can integrate not just web maps, but you can integrate web map applications. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And one of the interesting things, and you're just going to have to take my word for it on this because I don't have a way to display it for you, is if you open these on an iPhone or another mobile phone, the new format that is, it does a really nice job of displaying on an iOS application or an Android application or browser that is. So let's go look at the new version of the Growing Green.
So the story map can serve just as sort of the aggregator and sort of the cohesive element so that you can integrate, again, web maps and web applications that you've built. It can integrate a lot of different things into it together, right?
That's correct.
Okay, good.
And what you'll see later on as I begin to show these is I've got tab story maps that show dashboards. that do a really nice job with it. So this is the new version of Growing Green, the sustainability map. Once again, we have all the sections lined out at the top. This is mostly going to be the type that's referred to as sidecar, which means content on the left or right, and then a sidecar of information about it. And this is the same application, but now so that you continue to scroll and it doesn't take over the scroll application when you hover over it, you have to actually click it to tell it, hey, I want to use this. It also gives you the option to pop it out into its own tab, its own browser. And we continue on. And so now if you look at these, and I'm going to take this into edit mode. And what I want you to see when I go into edit mode is that when we go down to community gardens, that I am using the same web map over and over again. And what you'll see is when I get to this one, I just tell it, turn off everything but community gardens. These are all turned off. And when I get to the next section, I use the same web map. That way I'm not having to maintain, 7 or 8 web maps just to build one story map. I've got the one, and then I filter it when it comes in. The only thing that could break that is if you change the name of a layer. Then you need to go back and check it. So let's cancel. And not
So we're going to ask you to actually show us how to do that.
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Part of this is we're going to go through and we're going to build some of these live.
Good. Perfect.
So once again, we go to read. So we're at farmers markets. And you can see where all the farmers markets are and the regional farms. So I zoom out a little bit on that one. So I get to define how this map interacts in each section. And then I get to give it all the text I want, some nice pictures, descriptions. And then talk about recycling, add in a video. What will this kid do with his bottle? Will he put it in the recycling or will he leave it out? Anyway, I won't make you watch the whole thing, but it's a nice video done by Leon County Sustainability where they try to give you some recycling ethics lessons, the decision.
Ned, we
continuing on. What's that?
The question is, looks like the new story map is cascade style that integrates other styles. Is that correct?
It kind of is, yeah. It kind of is. And what I'll do is I can probably start it now if we want to jump ahead a little bit. I have a presentation story map that I built just for this. And in this one, I've already put a few sections in, but I'm going to go back through and I'm going to add a new one in each one of these and just kind of show you how to do it. And I only just started playing with this guided tour one today. So we're going to add a new section to that. And you'll have to excuse me, a lot of these I'm just putting in important text here. This is not a production story map by any means. So what I'll do is let's see. You can see I've already added an image here. So one of the most important things is to have your images all ready to go. And I like to make them all the same dimensions. So I try to avoid having long ones and, portraits and landscape and portrait and landscape. I try to make them all the same size and shape generally. So I have Photoshop and I'll just take a template and trim them all down, make them focus on what I want to see. And as Frank will tell you, you need to get your own photos or find some that are royalty free. Right, Frank?
That's exactly right.
All right, so here, in this first section here, I built a swipe. And this swipe application, I'm going to go ahead and add another one here. And I'm not going to put in a heading for this one because I already have a heading. I can put one in just so you see how it works. So if I start typing a heading here and call it swipe, I can spell 2. You'll see it's appearing at the top up there, along with my bad spelling. And I hit enter. And now I'm ready to put the next one in. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to select swipe beta. And down here, I'm going to go ahead and make it fill up the entire space. And I'm going to add a web map to this side. We'll add in 19, help me, Jacob, 1970? There we go.
Yeah, that's one of the, that's one of the
All right.
years.
I'm not sure why it's blocking me now. Hold on just a second. My screen just decided to lock up. I have to do something real quick. This is the part of working from home that can be a drag. Every now and again, I have to change my screen resolution and then change it back. If anybody else is dealing with this and you know a way around it, let me know. So now let's go back to that one. All right, so we added this one in. And I'm going to cancel. And I have no idea what I just added. Add a web map, pick one out. 1970, there it is. So it needs to be a web map. I've already got one here that's ready to go. Place map. And then I want to compare it to our latest imagery, which is 2020. And that's going to be one of our existing hybrid imagery base maps. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. I start most of these off at Joe Campbell just because it's a good reference that people know what it is, where it is, and how it's changed over the years. It's one thing that's always kind of been there. We'll zoom in one more. There we go. Place map. So just like that, I've built my swipe application for 1970. And on the right here, you can see we refer to this hybrid imagery because it has street names on it and place names here and there on it. So just like that, we've added a new one. Slideshow. This is interesting. It'll let you add maps and pictures and videos. So here's the second slide of this. This is kind of in a sustainability. And now if I want to add another one, I just hit add. And we will make it another picture. Let's go with, we'll make it a map. Recycling. Add a map. So this is the Leon Sustainability web map. And in here, I'm going to turn off everything but recycling. Oh, it's already set that way. Good. All right, so place map. So just like that, we've got 3 slides in here now. And it's nice because you can reorder them if you want to. And when you publish it, nobody sees that olive green part or that teal part there. Sidecar. So this is my favorite. It basically replaces the journal. And I thought we would go ahead and add a map, add a web app builder application to it, and go from there. Let's see, we'll do a couple of them. So you can see it also went down to the sidecar heading, which is right there. So let's add a map. Actually, sorry, cancel. Let's do Bike Tallahassee. So here's the Bike Tallahassee web map. And we can see right when it comes in, it's got a whole lot of stuff in it. Some of them are displayed, some of by default, some of them are not displayed. I think I want to remove bike parking, bike shops, repair stations, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can see bike routes. All right. So these are all bike routes within Tallahassee and Leon County. Now, I think it might be a good idea if we could do a map action to switch back and forth between different things on the map. So let's do, this is the original view and we'll just call it bike routes. Click away from it now. Now we'll add another one. We'll call it first we're going to design it. And we're going to call it Bike Tallahassee Network. Save action. And so what Bike Network is, if you're wondering, is it's all of the streets in Tallahassee, Leon County ranked based on ride comfort for bicyclists. How dangerous is it? And it is possible to go back and show a legend of this. I'm sorry, I didn't do that in the very beginning. In the top here, I can go back to the design. Now it's not letting me. Maybe I have to. Save. I'll have to investigate why it's not letting me do that. It may be because I added map actions. So let's add one more, and that is Bike Tallahassee facilities. So this is all the bike lanes, every different type of bike facilities, on-road bike facility you could have. All right, so we'll go back to this one now. This is the original, and now it will let me edit this. And I can up here at the top tell it to include a legend. Oops, I had it there. Legend. Search and map navigation is also on. We'll add those to it. And place map. So now I've got a nice ability to go in, turn some different layers on and off. And I would put instructions in here on how to do it. This out of the way. The next thing we're going to add is a button. Change this text to click away from it. So now we have something that will actually launch the By Tallahassee website once we've saved it and we're out of editing mode. So just like that, you can build a button to launch something. Any questions about how I put that together?
Yeah, Ned, I have a quick one. On those buttons, do you have to tell it that you want to target it to a separate blank tab or page, or does it automatically go and do that each time?
It automatically, it's basically building a little set of JSON that says, hey, take the same map that they've already opened and change the configuration of the layers that are turned on. Turn off all these and just this one on, or whatever. If I had turned on 5 layers, it could have done that.
Right. Okay.
So it's really only interacting with the layers in the map. Turn them off, turn them on.
Okay.
I think you can also get it to deploy a pop-up if you have a pop-up. And now we have our legend here. And the legend should be in sync with whatever's turned on. So if I hit Bike Network and turn on the legend, it's going to show you all the comfort levels. And now here I can add another sidecar, or I can go on to the next section. And so the way these headers work, these titles, the headings, they have to be separate. It can't be a heading within the sidecar. It has to be an actual separate item outside of the sidecar. So that's why you saw in those other applications that I showed, you have this blank space where the heading is. And then you have the sidecar immediately under it. So the sidecars are kind of disconnected. And I've complained about that. I'm not sure it'll do any good.
All right.
But so let's see. Moving on from there. And so one of the things that I wanted to note is the thing that you really haven't seen is how the tabbed story map is being replaced, and it's really with these guys up here, having that heading. So this is a guided tour. It's pretty interesting. The drawbacks to me are that you can't use your own map. You're basically using a stock ESRI story base map, and you're putting things on it as you go. So I have to actually place those points as part of this. And that, but you can reorder them and things like that, and it doesn't look too bad. I like it. So we're going to go ahead and add another one over here.
You do have
in the lower right.
Hand place and click on every single one of them. Actually, sorry.
Yes, 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 you
quick.
do.
Yeah, a little too quick. Sorry.
Sorry about that. So in this one, browse to your files. I've already been working on this today, so it should take me to a nice file of lakes. And we'll use Lake Lafayette. There's a nice picture of Lake Lafayette. I know that one's good because I took it. All right, and then we will, since we already know where Lake Lafayette is, we'll add a location for it. It's actually bigger than that, but we're just going to put it. The lake is wetlands that encompass this entire area right here. But the only part that's really full of water all the time is here and a little of here. But we'll just put a nice point right there. Come on now.
So Ned, just to clarify, when you uploaded that file, it actually went and moved it over to your organizational account, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I didn't say that well enough. So in the early days of story maps, you had to actually host all your own pictures. We started off hosting them on our web servers. Then ESRI made it where you could host them in ArcGIS Online and host them and point to them as a data link. In the latest version, they made it where you can upload them directly into your story map, and they're saved as part of your story map. And that's worked perfectly until I think just noticed something today that broke in one of my bigger story maps that I'm going to probably spend a day fixing. It lost most of its pictures. Don't know why, but I'm going to have to go fix it. And I'll show that one to you in a few minutes. So now we've added that. Let's zoom to the scale we want to see it at. That looks pretty good right there. And I've said here that I want to use the custom zoom level and place on map. Call it. So now that one's done. So now I can just go back to the top here, or if I, where the guided tour starts is zoomed out to full Leon County. Call it Lakes of Leon County. Then it goes into Jackson, which is an active karst feature and drains every 20 years or so completely, just like somebody pulled out the bottom of the sink. And yes, Lake Ammonia is infested with lily pads. You go out there in a boat, you better be prepared. And yes, this used to be a river. There's a dam now down here now. And Lake Lafayette, not so much a lake as a huge wetland, but right here, this section up here is an active karst feature. We caught a developer a while back trying to fill up the sinkhole with refrigerators and washing machines so it would fill back up with water. Fortunately, they got caught and weren't successful doing it. They wanted to sell lakefront property. Continuing on, that's kind of it for the new format of story map. If there's anything anybody wants to see me add, well, let's do this. Let's just add a video, just for grins. Come on now. You know what I think this is telling me is this has to be within the context of one of these other sections.
Mm-hmm.
Or, all right, can everybody hold on just a section? I just lost my connection to our remote server.
We're not going anywhere. Does anyone have any questions?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Does anyone have any comments? Has anyone else ever used the new story map format at all? Have any experience with it, and anything they can add to this while Ned is trying to recapture his connections?
I don't know how that happened. I must have had a network hiccup.
Hey, we're most of us are working from home still, so completely understandable, Ned. So I should ask while we're doing that, Ned. We've got 27 people in here, so I'm going to ask a poll. Now, GoToMeeting doesn't have a poll, so we need to have everybody go put something in the chat window. Do you currently create story maps? And if so, are you using the old format or the new format? So yes, old, yes, no, no. All right.
We have a yes, both.
Yes, both. That's good.
Yes, old. Yes, old. Yes, old. No, I have tried to with our parks department, but no interest. Yes, new and old formats. Yes, old. No.
No. So is there something specific that was frustrating with the older formats? I always found it a little bit tougher. By the way, I haven't started using the new ones yet, but I'm going to start using it almost after this meeting. That you found frustrating or something, so that Ned can address whether or not it's been fixed in the newer formats. Or was everybody happy with them?
All right, so I'm reconnected now. I hope everybody can still see my screen. And so what I've done now is I've just added our recycling video over again. And I can make it fill the whole screen.
It's very. I really like the way they've set up the formatting and adding it. It's a much more modern concept. You know, our web map is Squarespace, and it's the same sort of editing some of these web pages.
There we go. So now we've added that.
Great. So Ned, I have a question, or someone has Rod has a question here. Is it possible to go and use geotagged photos, or do you still have to go and do the geotagging yourself on them?
If your web map contains the geotagged photos, you should be able to use that.
But then the photos would appear in a pop-up, right?
They should, yes. And they should appear as an XY, as a dot with a pop-up.
Yeah. But it wouldn't
don't
be
know
the
that
sidecar.
Right. It wouldn't work in this format. These are, you have to add them one at a time kind of thing. But anything you wanted to do in a sidecar, to me, is a sidecar, and I probably didn't show that well enough. So let me go back up here and let's add another sidecar. So we do a lot of this also, where we'll come in and add an embed. So that's another nice thing. So this sidecar thing is a real nice way of putting some content on the right, whatever really you want, a video, and a picture, a web map, an application, a web page, and then talking about it on the other side.
And have you found any constraints as far as what you actually put up there?
I've found that if your picture is too big, it will let you know. You've got to take it into Photoshop or something else and reduce the size. They had 2 days in the middle of when I was actually building the sustainability, the new version of sustainability, where there was an update with Amazon AWS that tanked a lot of the work that ESRI was doing in the new story maps format. And they didn't really tell anybody, but enough people complained where they had to say something to at least to the people that complained. It wouldn't accept anything that you tried to add in. It wouldn't recognize it. So that was a good 2 days of why isn't this working out of my life?
Yeah.
You know, rebooting, restarting your browser, or what is wrong, that kind of thing.
So Ned, and I'm taking over Chris's job, but Ned, Sue asks a really good question, and I hadn't thought of it, but just a good question. If you can go and put something in that right pane on the sidecar, could you put another story map inside of that story map? Could there be some sort of recursion?
Yes, you could. And it doesn't matter what you put in there as long as it fits. You know, your concern would be that you might run out of real estate on the side, but you could put a dashboard in there. You could, do you want me to go ahead and try to put something in there?
Yeah.
See how it looks?
We like breaking things.
All right. It's good that we have something that's totally breakable too.
Yeah.
Let's add another one. And let's do, hang on a second, my story maps. Let's do There we go. There's a good one. Let me open a new browser tab before I kill that one. It won't give me the link to it. This one right here. So this is just a one-page story map that's sidecar. No, not sidecar, but in this it's a journal. So we should be able to just take this and stick it into the other one. Let's see if it likes it. And there it is. A story map and a story map.
So if actually you are telling a story about how you created the story maps, you can embed the story map inside, and you can have
Right.
the metadata about that over on the sidecar.
Yep.
Interesting.
And I've done some similar things in the past, and these are some of the things I'll be looking at in the near future. And that is, so we have a planner that also does GIS on the side, and he maintains something called Major Ongoing and Proposed Developments. It's a feature class in ArcGIS Online that used to be an access database that they would offer as a DBF file as a download on the planning department's website. And they had it out there for maybe, I want to say close to 20 years before I said, hey, you know, we could do something better with that, right? So eventually we created a whole new data set that allows you to build dashboards out of it. It's one feature class, but he maintains this weekly. So we know how many, so like assisted living facilities. At one time last year or 2 years ago when we built this, there were close to 3,000 rooms under construction, units under construction in Tallahassee for assisted living facilities.
Wow.
That's come down considerably. So where are the condominiums going? And what you'll see right now is things are slowing down really, really. So there's some mixed use. So these are not actual buildings, but these are developments and how many units, how many lots they have.
I see. Are they building something around Michelle San Miguel?
Where's
Thought I
that?
saw it on the list there.
Up at the top?
Nope, in the middle. Down, 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 down. Yeah, there it is, right there.
Mission San Miguel.
Mission.
It's an existing development, but it still has empty lots in it. So if you click on this, and yeah, this thing doesn't like my my lovely HTML expressions. 71 units completed, 2 under construction as of April 2020. And that was the last update, April 27th on that one. So it just really tells you where there are lots still available,
right?
That kind of thing.
So you could actually
embed this dashboard
in a story map.
You can embed this dashboard, and that will probably be the next thing that we do is we take this dashboard and embed it in one of the other format. There are some others. Let me give you a glimpse at, and this is another thing I wanted to talk about. So we come down to, let's see, at emergency management. Find where all these are. Well, let's do this one. There we go, Leon County Public Works Engineering Projects. What I wanted to show you is that you can use URL parameters to drive these guys. So if I put and autoplay at the end of it, And we will use these at the Emergency Operations Center to show, and if you look down here at the bottom, every 10 seconds, it's going to go to the next one. It doesn't matter how many you have in it. And so at the Emergency Operations Center, we will have one that shows traffic lights, conditions, active calls for debris, where the power outages are. These are all different maps, and it'll just tab through them. What our shelter situation is, with a dashboard that shows how many at each shelter and which shelter, what our overall capacity and how close we are to it. These will all be on display on the big screens at the EOC, and you've never seen anything quite like it when you see county administrators and mayors just standing there with their arms folded, waiting for the next slide to come through so they can see if there's been any changes.
So
especially when we're doing.
Is autoplay a default option on here, or is that a setting that you have to set within the story map itself?
No, it's a default. You just put and autoplay at the end, and then you can tell it how many seconds here, or you can pause it.
Interesting.
Somebody says, "Hey, we need to take a closer look at that." You just hit pause. You can speed it up, slow it down. It'll go down to 5 seconds and up to 49 seconds. 60 seconds, sorry. There are other URL parameters, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit. Without going off subject too much, I have story map resources here, and one of these, as I mentioned to you earlier, Frank, is this is the only time I know of ESRI farming out their story maps to another, or one of their websites to another content manager in their group called Medium. So you really have to kind of sign up for Developers Corner. This is Developers Corner here. The company's called Medium. You have to get an account with them to look at it, but it's where the story maps group keeps all of their customization stuff. How to do this, how to do that, you name it. So if you want to know how I made those buttons in the journal, story map actions with buttons. This is how to do it. Step by step. What the code looks like. So you're doing a little bit of code in there. And they do come back and improve these. I like that they did this. It's a nice style. But most of these are for the old style story maps, not the new one. I haven't seen any customization capabilities offered for that just yet. So there are beginner customizations, there are intermediate customizations, and they're advanced. I've done a little bit of the advanced. So adding data-driven text to a story map, add context to a story map journal with an index map. I've done that one. But most of these require you to download this journal story map code and deploy it on your own server. So you have to have access to your own web server in order to make some of these work. And we talked about this earlier a little bit. I wanted to show you this. So leoncountyfl.gov/water quality journal. And what you'll see here is this is our water quality journal story map. But for all the world, it looks like it's coming from our TLGIS.leoncountyfl.gov domain, which is what something that the county administration specifically asked for. They didn't want a long URL with a bunch of numbers and letters at the end of it. So now it just lives at the end of this shorter URL. I know you could use a shortened URL coming from Esri, but it's still not quite the same as coming from your own domain. And so another one that we did here was building in a custom table of contents.
So hold on a minute. How did you do that?
So you download the code base and you deploy it on your own web server. You still build the story map in ArcGIS online, but from your own web server, you tell the index.html to go read this story map at this location, and it appears to come from your URL.
So it's almost as if it's a URL link shortener that you're running on your own server.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
So we also did some nice CSS in this for the buttons. You saw that effect that they were showing, and I got it directly from the Medium pages. But we also built this nice table of contents. It's just HTML tables with map actions stored under each one of these. Actually, it's journal references, so it actually takes you to the section. And this is one of the ones that lost a bunch of its graphics. So this is supposed to be a little icon that looks like a report. The report link still works, but I lost my icon for some reason. So I got to go back and fix all these in 45 slides. So this is a really big story map. And we put some nice arcade in here that forces the story map to read a particular health or impaired image on each one of the resources as it selects them. You look at the drainage basin. These are all map actions in a journal. And you can return back to the top and then go look at another one. More broken links. I got a lot of work cut out for me. You know, one of the complaints I have about this is when we set up the CSS to do this lovely table of contents, that I can't get rid of this square that's around this graphic right here. I even asked them, what can I do? And they said, we have no idea. So
is that image a link? Is that what it is? And the CSS is showing you that that's linked out there?
Yes.
Doesn't look like it. Never mind.
So, and why don't we go do this? I'm currently, well, it's not going to let me do it from this link. If I go into the link in ArcGIS Online, I can show you what the code looks like if anybody's interested. I didn't see everybody's hand go up, so.
So this is this is the older style journal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And as far as I know, you can't do it on the newer style. You can't do the same sort of, you know, I'm doing some of the same things, but this is all hard coded. So when I go over here to this water quality journal, this is the same journal, but it's the one I used to develop from. So county, I know it's in here. Monitoring Leon County's water resources. So this is the same story map, but now you can see it's coming from Esri, and I have edit capability. And if I want to go in to this section, look at the CSS, and this is what this does. Anytime you see these little bird beak graphics, it means show me the code.
Yep.
And then you can make it actually go to full screen. So you can see up here at the top, we've got just a simple table and then a ton of map actions. So here they are, MJ action. Every one of those just goes to a different story map section. That's what it does. It moves to another story map section. And to make this easier, I usually use an IDE called Apsana so that I can see IntelliSense in the code, and it makes it make more sense. But, you know, it's a little bit of code for a nice effect.
What that means, though, is that it's not just now you're learning Esri's technology, but you also are going to have HTML, and you're going to have CSS in here, right?
Yep.
You have to understand both of those technologies in order to go and do this. And If you want your web map to go and have certain actions like some of your pop-ups and the gauges and stuff, then you're going to need Arcade, right?
If you want, that's a function of the web map. The Arcade doesn't really go into the story map, but it's a function of the web map. And what you can see here, it should be in this first section, is typically in the first section is where all of the CSS comes in. So here's the CSS to build buttons. And because you put it in the first section, it's eligible to all the sections that follow.
Oh, okay.
In the chat, Kathy says JavaScript.
This is all HTML.
Yeah. Cascading style sheets, the CSS, and then the HTML for the actual formatting and putting linkages in there, that sort of thing.
Yes. And if I do this,
but could you embed? Maybe that's the question. Could you embed JavaScript inside of that?
I don't know. I haven't tried. Possibly, but I have not seen that done before.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because when you put one of these sections together, it's building this code in the background, whether you put it in or not. You can just go in and clean it up and make it look better. So like if your picture resource migrated from a non-SSL connection to an SSL connection, in other words, HTTPS, instead of going in and reloading every picture, you could go in and just change the S's in all of the code all the way down through the map, through the story map. It might make things easier. And that's what happened here with these reports that are downloaded from towards the bottom here. Here it is. No, it's still sharing rest. Well, it's in some of the other sections. We have some reports that we want to download from our local content at Leon County. And all of those links, when we first started, were on an SSL connection, and they converted, and we had to go change every link in the map. Or in the story map.
Ned, and I know I'm stepping all over Christopher here, but
No worries.
We've gone really deep into this. So we've got a couple of people asking, can we go up to the surface again? Can you tell us, can you sort of help them? How do they start with this?
Okay,
get a gulp of air.
All right, so this is just our ArcGIS Online organization. There are a couple of places you can start. One is to go to your content in ArcGIS Online, and yes, this does require an ArcGIS Online content to do. And just hit create. And this is how you start with one of the new style story maps. Just hitting the create button, suddenly, boom, I've got it. It's stored in my content. It's in my default folder, and I can just start building it from there. It's not quite as easy to build one of the old style maps. So let's go back to where we were. Content. This one kind of wants you to start with a web map. So let me find a good web map to use. Map. Oops. Sorry. From the gallery here. And this is TLGIS's gallery. And I'm just going to filter for maps. And we'll look at the Bike Tallahassee web map. And now over here, if I hit share, and the web map does have to belong to me. And create web app, configurable apps, and story builder should be in here, or story map should be in here. Journal style story map. Create web app. Bike Tallahassee. Do I want it to hover, or do I want it parked on the left? I parked on the left, and we hit start. And just like that, what do you want to call it? Like Tallahassee, and go. It should already have my, there we go, Bike Tallahassee selected. And I can customize. I'm going to leave it for now and just hit next. And I can put some stuff in here. It's going to make you put some stuff in here. And just like that, I've got my first journal section. Now I can go through and change things on the map, do all sorts of map actions. If I want to change what's turned on in the map. So this is kind of nice here, main stage. These are all the customizing things that I can do to this map. I can tell it I want it to use custom configuration for the pop-up or the default for the pop-up. For the content, I'm going to use a custom configuration just to show you how, and turn off bike shops, bike repair, and bike parking. And turn off that and just turn on the routes. And then save. And for, let's see, location, I'm going to back out a little bit, center it, and save map location. And just like that, this is what it looks like now. If I want to add a new section, it's going to default to the Bike Tallahassee map. If I'm fine with that, that's good. I'm going to call this one facilities. And I'm going to change content and turn on the bike facilities. Save map content. Call facilities. Next, the text has to be in here. You can't go forward. And add. So now I've got two sections. In the first one, I'm using the same map in both. Home section shows the routes. Next section shows facilities. And I can go further on down and just eliminate or talk about specific pieces of the map as I go through. So what typically happens is the first map is everything, and then you go through and turn only one item on and talk about it, the next item on and talk about it, and you're kind of doing a show and tell with your layers. Does that help some?
That helps a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Ned.
And let's see. Let's do a another one. And you can see how that was a little bit of a roundabout way to go to it. There's another one link here. developers.arcgis.com. If you have an ESRI subscription, this, as far as I know, this comes with it. So you can view your dashboard. This one is specifically for me because I'm logged in. It shows that I have 219 apps. That's a lot of apps. And 648 layers. And you can launch a new story map from here or a new application. And I wanted to see if it would let you do a story map from here. I don't think it was. So these old story maps are they're making it harder for you to start new ones. You used to be able to start it from here, but now if I hit story map, it defaults to the new style.
To the new one, yeah.
It doesn't give me an option to do anything but the new one.
So Kathy has one more question regarding,
Sure.
Once you've gone and created one, so how do you interact the side content with the map content again?
Oh, the map actions?
Yes.
So let's do one. Let's go back to the map we were just working on, the one we created. This guy right here. So you add some text. and you go right here to story actions. You can change the main stage content. You can locate an address on the map with it. Navigate to another section. So that's what you've seen me do kind of already. So here we're going to change the content on the map, and we're going to have it, first we're going to have it zoom in. So custom location. Because we want it to be zoomed in tight enough to see this next layer. Down in the College Town area, save map location. Custom content, we're going to turn off Bike Tallahassee facilities, and we're going to turn on bike parking, bike shops, bike repair stations. And you can see I haven't zoomed in quite close enough to see the bike parking because there's a lot of it. There we go. And then we'll hit apply and save. So now you can see it's got little dots under it. And right now we're at the default look of this slide, but if we hit map action, it zooms in and turns on the layers that we asked it to, turns everything else off. So when you've seen me use it in other layers, 90% of the time when I'm building a map action, what I really want to do, because it's embedding this, is I want to get this little bit of code right here. From here to here. And then I can move that anywhere I want to put it. It's basically a link that says, hey, do this. And then I can call it something else. You know, now I can say, you can see how this works. Show bike amenity locations. And you can see that's just an alt tag. But now it's changed it there. And so what you saw on the water quality one was me make just a whole boatload of map actions and then save them into that table as links over and over and over again, which is, it's complicated to create, but it makes a nice experience for the end user, to the point where I've had a couple of the ESRI solutions engineers ask me how I did it. I'm like, guys, the instructions are in your own webpage. Just go look at it there. Is that helpful? I hope.
Yeah, that is very good. Thank you. So Jacob also had a comment. He said, will the old style story maps still be supported if someone already has a lot of story maps, or will one have to redo it? You have to redo their old story maps in the new style.
So here's the story on that. 2024 is when the old style story maps are destined to be mothballed. So you have a good 4 years to go and get your stuff moved. You know, I wanted to learn the new technology, so the first thing I did was take some of my heftier story maps and convert them over. And one of the reasons I did that is I got complaints from the departments I was supporting that the story maps did not function well in mobile devices. And I wish I had an emulator that I could use to show you what these things look like on a mobile phone, but they look much nicer coming from the old story maps, or than they did coming from the old story maps. I apologize for not having that. I probably, as they begin to add new abilities to this new format, I'll probably just continue to bit by bit move my old story maps over, and you can see that, you know, this may not be half of them that we have out there. I did also want to share. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I've saved some comments. I've got some comments. We probably will do it after this.
Go ahead.
But no, um, I was just going to share a story that, in fact, I've run into recently some issues that have me questioning how much support Edge is going to continue for some of the older technologies and for how long. A prime example of this is I recently had a client go and take and migrate all their annotation feature classes into ArcGIS annotation structure. All right. And as soon as you do that, there is no way to go backwards. No way. It is not readable by ArcMap or any of that ArcMap technology. You cannot export it out. You cannot do anything with it. So I'm just questioning, and I've recently, they've done a couple things like that. To what extent that's going to be our way of life from this point forward. They're going to not just nudge you, they're going to push you to get into the new technologies.
That's got to be real difficult for parcel annotation, for road and other simpler annotation like that. I'm looking at vector tiles.
Yeah.
And creating vector tile layers just to support, like, so you saw the hybrid layer of streets and labels that we had sitting on top of our imagery. I'm working on one of those as a vector tile.
And that actually was their suggestion, is just do a tile cache of that, and whether it was a vector tile or a raster tile cache, just a tile cache. It's like,
yeah. So the vector tiles, the text placement is not quite as precise because it's a technology that ESRI bought from a company. I think they're called Mapbox.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what you see in your map and what a vector tile cache puts out is not always the same thing. It's mostly okay, but it's not always exactly the same thing. But what it makes up for in speed over a traditional map service from ArcGIS server is just phenomenal. I put one out into our, and I'll show it to you here. So if I go to map here, and so this is our the TLGIS base map gallery. And you can see all of Jacob's fine work here because every one of those sets of maps, historical maps that he's worked on, is in there. Down here at the bottom, we have our new vector tile base map. And the speed on this thing is just phenomenal. And more importantly, it takes me a hot 10 minutes to update this. I'm doing it with Python and a model. I probably will work to get into a more automated format, but you can see that, you know, this thing is just lickety split fast as a base map.
So Ned, you just changed topics on us, and that sort of perked up.
I apologize.
People. Yeah. So Mark is asking, how much space does it take to store vector tiles?
You would be so surprised how small it is. And I'm gonna log into a server here and show you where I do this. So you're looking at the TLGIS server farm here on the left. I do this on a cache server. And so ArcGIS Pro and Pro Tiling. I have a project here just for this. But what I wanted you to see is the street map vector tile package for Leon County. And this is a package file that gets exported up to ArcGIS Online. And there it is, street map BTPK is 38 megs. And to run it, so ArcGIS Pro Tiling, let me open this up. This is going to shock you, for those of you that are making base maps or working with this kind of data. And Frank, I told you a while ago I was really excited about vector tiles and what the potential was
shared
for
this
them.
with me. You realize, Ned, you're talking yourself into another deep dive here in the future. Because I don't think any of us have experimented enough with this to be able to go and talk about this. But
so here's my street map right here.
oh boy, they're all voting, Ned.
So this is that street map, and you can see here it's spinning around down here like crazy. It's taking 40 forevers because I have some really complicated label expressions in this, and lots of anyway, you get the idea. So now I go over here to my, let's see, this guy right here,
Create vector
Leon County street map. All right, so let's run this guy. So this takes typically 4 minutes, and I became enamored with this at user conference 2 years ago. Actually, no, last year. When I went over, there was one lonely lady in the vector tile section sitting there alone, and she had a model just like this one, and she said, I'm going to create a vector tile of New Zealand, all of New Zealand down to a 1 to 560 scale, and I'm going to do it in under 4 minutes. I said, you're full of it. And just like that, she did it. And I went back to my room in San Diego that night, and I started working on this project on this server, and this is the result. I had built it by the next day.
So how many different levels are you producing this at?
It will go down to 22 levels.
Wow. Yeah, I think you just talked yourself into another deep dive. So before we leave this, because we're coming up on 90 minutes now, do we have any other questions regarding story maps that anybody has on this? Please talk now. Talk now.
I'm sorry I got off track there, you guys.
That's all right. So Richard
when that's done,
says the pictures and new story maps you shared look great, and you said you sized them in the Photoshop prior to bringing them in to the maps. What size and resolution do you find works best with the new story maps? Do you need to factor for desktop computers, iPhone use, that sort of thing? For any,
I'm using a pretty small graphic, and I'm just going to go click on one of them that's already processed. Let's go to fix. It's actually here. Processed photos. So you can see here, most of them are pretty small. Properties.
they're tiny.
Yeah.
1.7 gigs.
770 by 400 is the dimensions I'm using. And how did I pick that? You know, I just sized it until I thought it looked good in a journal map. But it actually works pretty well in most of the other story map configurations also.
Interesting. Thank
you. So
you.
this is all the pictures that are in that water quality journal. There you go. So you can see they're all the same dimensions except this guy, and that's the opening frame for that usually that I use. All the rest of them are all processed to that size. And here's the water quality image processing. So I just bring them all into here and stamp them down to that size. Save them out again.
So have you done any work with any of the cascading story maps?
I've not. I apologize for that.
Oh, no.
One of our other team members, Marcus, has done a good bit of work with cascading. I'm not sure if he's on the call. If he is, I'll ask him to speak up. I was going to show this history site.
Yes, that's a
First, I wanted
great
to
site.
actually first I wanted to show you that this ran in 2 minutes and 17 seconds to cache all of Leon County for 22 lots. And
Said
to
there were some issues regarding placements within the vector tiles. Is that correct or not?
yeah, just because it doesn't always pay great attention to what you've asked it to do with your Maplex. Sometimes it differentiates from that a little bit, but it's not bad. So the next thing I have to do is share the vector tile package up to the web. And that takes all of
should be 30 seconds or something.
Yeah, and then so there's a follow-up piece to this, and this is a piece of technology that Esri offered, and I customized it a little bit to do my own thing. And that is I can't show you the whole, actually I can't show it to you at all because it has my admin credentials in it.
Yep.
But it's basically, it takes that VTPK and publishes it to replace the vector tile layer, unpackaged vector tile layer that you already have in ArcGIS Online.
Interesting.
And I can, so the data that's in the background on that map is being updated by the professionals at TLGIS day in and day out. This is constantly being updated. Street center lines, address points, park trails, you name it. It's all being updated. And so once a week I go in and run this process and update that map. The drawbacks to vector tiles are that they don't print well from a web client.
Yeah.
So
Ned, I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to stop the recording as far as the story map deep dive. Thank you.
Thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoyed this workshop. If you have questions, would like some more details about anything we discussed during this workshop, or if you or anyone at your organization would like information about training, support, or ways in which we can help you with your GIS needs, please contact me at frank@pandaconsulting.com or call me at 561-691-3277, and we can discuss how we can help you with your needs.